Welcome everybody to the Glencoe Public Library program on It's Not Easy Being Green in a Pandemic. We have put this program together in co-sponsorship with the Glencoe Sustainability Task Force and Lakeshore Recycling Systems. And tonight we've got Bill Kenny from Lakeshore Recycling Systems. Oops, he just disappeared. I'm sure he'll be back. And before he gets on, I'm going to tell you one thing about this, and that is that thank you very much to the Sustainability Task Force people who put this together, Linda Lynn, Barney Gallagher, Megan Olson from the Village, and others. And I want to remind everybody that there's going to be another in this series this fall, another program by the Sustainability Task Force called Glencoe's Water and Your New Water Meter. And that is Wednesday, November 11th at 7 o'clock. So please join us for that as well. Tonight's program is being recorded. So if you know anyone who wants to, who couldn't catch it and would like to see it, they can, in a few days, we'll have it up on our website under digital content / GPL YouTube channel. So that's how libraries are now. That's what we do. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lisa Fremont. Lisa is a friend of the Glencoe Library and a Sustainability Task Force member and a longtime green activist in Glencoe and around Glencoe. So take it away, Lisa.
Thanks, Grace. Hello, everyone who I can't see out there. So first I want to just introduce the task force. We are an advisory board to the Village of Glencoe. In addition to advising the board, we partner with the village to bring environmental projects to the community. Projects like the active transportation plan. And this weekend we're having a donate and recycling day on Saturday from 10 to 1. So please everyone come to that event. We also focus on environmental education through articles and speakers such as the one we're having tonight. Lakeshore Recycling, Glencoe's waste and recycling vendor, is one of the country's largest privately held waste and recycling companies. It operates in 3 states with nearly 1,000 employees and over 500 trucks. The average Glencoe household produces about 1 ton of waste and about a half a ton of recycling. In 2019, 82% of the households use the curbside recycling program, one of the highest rates on the North Shore. So far in 2020, 110 residents have used the electronics recycling program, and the village also recycles household batteries, fluorescent light bulbs, cell phones, and holiday lights. Bill Kenny is here from LRS to talk about recycling and help decipher what goes and doesn't go into your bins. Bill helped start LRS's municipal division, which has become the hauler for nearly 40 Chicagoland municipalities. He will speak for about 20 minutes and then take questions from the audience. So, you know, be prepared. So, thank you, Bill. Oops, you're muted.
Okay, is that any better? Can you hear me now? Okay, now I can.
Bill, are you still there?
I didn't do anything. I don't know what happened to him. I'm sorry, everyone. Technical difficulties. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think we finally solved it here because I can hear you now finally. So I apologize. If you can't hear me, obviously just let me know. Thank you, Linda, for the introduction. I am very grateful to be here and talk to you all about recycling, primarily organics, and all these sort of ancillary things that go into that as well, and also just Glenview specifically in terms of how we service Glencoe, pardon me. So again, my pleasure to be here. I'll knowing that brevity is the soul of wit, I'll try not to be too granular about certain things or too wonkish about certain things, but I also know that there's probably some people watching tonight that are light years ahead of me in some of the knowledge of this stuff too. So with that, if we have, do we have the PowerPoint ready to go here? Hello? Excellent. And again, can everyone still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think we maybe if we could get up to the first slide, is that?
I think that is the first slide, actually.
Okay, you are right. We are now at the first slide. Thank you so much. Evolution of curbside recycling. And now we will head to slide number 2, if you would, please. Just a brief background on Lakeshore Recycling Systems. As you know, we are the contracted waste and recycle hauler for Glenview, and it's a terrific city. As Lisa pointed out, Glencoe residents have some of the highest participation rates in Chicagoland in terms of recycling. They do a great job. So there's not a whole lot of things that I can tell you that you can improve upon because you always do it so well. Little background on LRS. We are just about a 20-year-old company, but we've been doing business as Lakeshore Recycling Systems in earnest since 2013. Before that, we were started by a guy named Josh Connell. Some of you may know that name. And pardon me, I think I said Glenview and I meant to say Glencoe. Josh started this company back in 2001. We were Lakeshore Waste back then, and we merged with another company to become LRS, Lakeshore Recycling Systems, in 2013. Since then, that was a one truck, one route operation. We've grown to see saturation in 3 different states: Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, of course, with a fleet of about 500 trucks and nearly 1,000 employees. So our reach has grown quite a bit. It's been organic growth, and I'm very, very proud of that. We started in the residential side of things back in 2013. Our first contract was one of your neighbors in Riverwoods. And since then, we've been contract with communities like Highland Park, Winnetka, Highwood, Evanston, out west, St. Charles, Geneva, as far south as Blue Island. So we've really grown quite a bit. So that's again a little bit of background on us. My background: I have a degree from DePaul University. I really have no business being in the garbage industry, but I started out working for Coca-Cola, and through my friendship with Josh, and just right place, the right time, I got to come work for him, and it's been a very, very good fit. I've enjoyed working with him to grow our municipal side of things. Next slide. Just a little bit of added history for a timeline. In 2013, we acquired a piece of property in the south side of Chicago, in the back of the yards neighborhood, where we have a facility that is permitted for construction and demolition debris. 2014, we bought a company called Heartland Recycling, which gave us it gave us a new facility to take in MSW, which is municipal solid waste, C&D, among other things. And just through the years, we've acquired other companies, area companies, K Hoving out west in West Chicago, which gave us saturation out there. Some companies in Wisconsin, and then of course along the way, we've also picked up some other companies with ancillary business that help us out with portable restrooms, street sweeping, that sort of thing. It's notable to point out that we did buy a landfill in 2019. That was something that we really hadn't considered up until the last year or two, but it gives us an opportunity to be a little bit more competitive with some of the bigger companies. That landfill is out of market. That's closer to Iowa, so we don't use it for much that we take in here, but we do have that as an added resource. So next slide, please. This is just more as far as our growth goes. I don't want to belabor that too much. It seems like I'm sort of patting ourselves on the back, but we are proud of that growth. It's again, it's been organic. It's with the exception of a merger with a local company. It's been something we've done on our own without being bought by other companies, that sort of thing. So next slide, please. Some of our core values. We are relentless in terms of our approach to recycling. We still retain very much a recycling first perspective. And we like to partner with communities and companies that have those same goals and visions as us. We're a company that is very interested in making sure that we're giving back to the community. You can see on the screen there, we pitch in a lot to good, very worthy causes like lupus, Special Olympics, that sort of thing. So we're very, very proud to have some ownership and management team that stuff is important to. Next slide, please. See some of the communities that we're part of other than Glencoe. Those include, again, Highland Park, Winnetka, Skokie, Geneva. I won't go through that whole list again, but we get as far as west as DeKalb, as you can see on there. So it's just a little added information there. Next slide, please. Brief history of early recycling programs and consumer packaging. Next slide, please. In 1970, the first Earth Day, drew nationwide attention. It was 2 years before I was born. 1974, University City, Missouri introduced the first curbside recycling program. 1980, Woodbury, New Jersey became the first community to mandate curbside recycling program. And by 1988, we had seen over 1,000 curbside recycling programs in the country. Next slide, please. That, as you can see, grew considerably by the time we got to 1992, where you saw well over 5,000 curbside recycling programs in the country. And I'm sure a lot of you can remember, I'm certainly old enough to remember back in the 80s, it was sort of recycling was almost seen as like a boutique thing. People didn't know what to make of it. You could see your neighbor with one of those bins with recyclables in it, and people thought, oh, that's interesting. But now it's pretty much the norm, thankfully. And in 2006, Dell began to offer free recycling for their products. And that was sort of the catalyst for a lot of the electronic waste programs that you're seeing today, which is considerable. Next slide, please. Consumer packaging, which is really sort of been a game changer in terms of how we approach recycling from a hauler's perspective. 1915, polyethylene was invented. In less than a decade, the demand grew from 5 million pounds to 1.2 billion by the end of 1960. By 1990, McDonald's stopped using styrofoam containers. We probably all remember those containers, the McBLT and those sorts of containers were fortunately went the way of the dodo bird. And then by 2007, San Francisco became the first city to prohibit flat out the distribution of plastic bags in grocery stores. Next slide, please. Challenges with curbside recycling. We can get right into the next slide if you would. Contamination is still something that as a hauler plagues us. We still deal with it a lot, even in the best communities, even in communities like Glencoe, we still face those contamination challenges. A lot of times it's from people with good intentions. They might have a pizza box or something that they figure, well, it's cardboard, so we can put it in the recycling bin. But very oftentimes that pizza box has grease stains or residual cheese or something. So that can hurt our mission as far as getting good, clean recyclables. 2013, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with China implemented what's called a green fence, which was essentially their way of cutting way back on the amount of recycling that was coming in from all over the world. they were accepting recycling up to that point that was just so loaded with contamination. It had a lot of garbage buried into it. Not much in terms of regulation over there, so it really wasn't, just it sort of went unnoticed for a long time. But again, in 2013, they said, nah, we're gonna shut it off here, and that had a considerable ripple effect on the rest of the world. By 2017, the Operation Green Fence had entered its second phase, which was the Operation National Sword, which compounded the problem even more in terms of sending recyclables to China. That required that 99.5% of bales be clean material. That is that's a very difficult thing to get to that rate, to have 99.5% total clean recyclables in a bale. Even for a company that does it with as much automation and sophistication as my company, it's very, very tough to attain that number. So that again has been a big challenge to sort of the backlog of recyclables. Increased consumer products, poor commodity markets. Recent changes since the end of 2017. Quite frankly, recycling is it's not something that we make money on anymore. We don't get paid for our bales. It's similar to garbage at this point. We have to pay oftentimes to get rid of that. So that's forced us to sort of reevaluate the way we look at recycling. We still do it very vigilantly, but it's definitely a down market. Next slide, please. Consumer packaging. Anybody that goes to a grocery store can see how much consumer packaging has changed, especially with the advent of flex packaging. You can just see in the pictures there, a lot of stuff's no longer put in cardboard boxes or jars or plastic jars. It comes in the flexible packaging, like you see right there, the resealable packaging. The increased use in single-use plastics, the Keurig cups that you see right there that a lot of people use, and I'm guilty of using them occasionally too. We just don't have an outlet to recycle those right now, and I don't know when that will happen. Next slide, please. Other factors contributing to the change of the industry have been trends like lightweighting. And if that sounds unfamiliar, what lightweighting is essentially the reduction of material used to create a product. And I think the best example of that would be a plastic water bottle. 10 years ago, if you drank a bottle, if you had a bottle of water and you uncapped it and you drank it, you could put it down, no big deal. Now, if you put that bottle down too hard on a flat surface, you could end up squeezing the bottle and water comes out. That's just because a lot less material is being used to make that. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, it's good that they're using less material, but it creates a little bit more mess. But the Amazon effect, most of us probably use Amazon. There's less cardboard being used. That's more of the flex packaging right now, which is very difficult to recycle in spite of what people might say. It's just, it accounts for a certain percentage of recyclables, but it's very, very hard to capture that right now. So it's essentially still rendered as garbage at this point. Increased use of single-use plastics, pardon me. Lack of technologies in many parts of the country and lack of capital being put into new facilities hurts the process. Poor communication and education. Companies like mine have to do a better job of making sure that we're participating in events like this, but also getting to schools, universities, high schools, and making sure that we're doing a job sort of proselytizing this and what good recycling is. Next slide, please. Actually, you could go 2 slides. Curbside recycling. If you look back at how recycling routes were run years ago, it was again getting back into a mixed bag. It was very inefficient. Drivers would get out and sort stuff at the curb a lot of the time, but it's hard to finish a route when your driver's getting out of his cab sorting recyclables. So you had less contamination, but you probably weren't finishing a lot of routes. With the advent of single stream recycling, we were able to create a lot of operational efficiencies. We weren't getting out of the cab. We were able to commingle those things and sort those at our facilities, but it also created more contamination that we had to deal with. Next slide, please. You can see a couple illustrations there. Those are both machines that we have at our facilities. The one on the left is a robot, which picks up colored DP plastics and sorts for that. I think we're one of 1 or 2 haulers that have robotic capabilities at this point. At least we were until about a year ago. The robot, if you see it, it works just like a robot. It's got 2 robotic arms. It's not like, you know, the Lost in Space robot, but it will teach itself on what to pull from the recyclable stream. It could see a Tide logo, and it knows just to take that out. Optic sorters we use excuse me, we use laser technology, we use ballistic sorters, we use eddy currents, we use all sorts of things to sort recyclables at our main facility, especially where we're usually pre-COVID, we were processing about 20 tons an hour. On top of that, we also have line workers that are sort of our first and last line of defense for sorting out contamination. Next slide, please. Recycling opportunities. Again, we feel it's important for us as a company. It's especially in a role like I have, to get out there and talk to people about recycling and what makes good recycling, what the proper narratives are, what the things we want to avoid, and just getting the right message out. Again, it's, you know, Glencoe just does such a fantastic job, but not all communities are as good as Glencoe at this stuff. Next slide, please. Policy changes, recycling opportunities, policy changes. San Francisco County and the city's mandatory composting and recycling ordinance, minimum recyclable content standards, extended producer responsibility, plastic bag bans, national bottle deposit bill, plastic tax. These are all sorts of things that municipalities have implemented to help get a better participation and better recyclables. If anyone that's been to San Francisco or the Pacific Northwest, generally speaking, I mean, you literally have people that go around and they'll look in your containers for certain things or to make sure you're doing it. So they're pretty hardcore about it. And then my final slide is just questions. But before I did that, and I'm not sure if we have this capability to run that short video. made it through to the rest of the process.
Okay, how about Chinet and other paper plates?
Paper plates, yes. Again, under the assumption that they're clean and they're not, they don't have residual grease or something on them. Yes, if they've been used and there's food on it, then unfortunately that's going to be something that should be thrown away. But if you're just, if it's in here, I'll say this: I wouldn't put this in writing, but even pizza boxes, if it's clean, if there's no residual cheese or sauce or grease on it, you can throw it in the recycle container. But we just, we need, too often people aren't looking, they're just throwing it in there. So it pretty much has to be a rule that we don't take it, but it is a discretionary thing.
Can I interrupt to like get more refined in that? Because,
Yeah.
What do you mean by no residual? I mean, if a pizza has been on a thing, there's going to be something. Does it have to be like a brand new box? Or, if you're going to have a plate with friends over, it's going to have something on it. I mean, how much, what are you talking about by residual?
So it won't always have. I mean, if you get something like from Lou Malnati's, let's just use Lou Malnati's as for the sake of example. Lou Malnati's puts a couple pieces of tinfoil on top of the pizzas to keep them warm. If that box hasn't been shaking around on the way home, it sits on a circular piece of cardboard. If you take it out and you look at the top and there's no grease stain on the cardboard or cheese or anything like that, and there's none on the bottom, that's recyclable. But I've had enough pizza where I can tell you firsthand, you can look at a pizza box and sometimes it's okay, but again, it's not something that I would codify and say it's okay to do it on a larger scale than that, because people just don't usually take the time, and we want to avoid the pizza boxes that are cheesy, that are greasy.
Okay, a few more specific things here. What about glossy catalogs and yellow pages types of directories? Recyclable or not?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, what the definition of the glossy catalogs would be. I mean, if it's like a Sears catalog or something, you're probably going to be okay. But we also want to be careful, because if it's a real thick catalog with a lot of glue and resin in it, then that could potentially be contamination, or that could potentially hurt the recycling stream, or the process rather.
Okay,
but if it's just, I mean,
just yellow pages, straight paper ones.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no binding on it, we can take it.
Okay. What about catering portion cups?
Catering portion cups.
I'm not sure what those are.
Yeah, I'm not sure what catering portion cups are.
Let's skip to the next question. There's a lot of questions. What about foil with food bits on it?
No, garbage. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about, here's a few questions about curbside composting. Can we compost, and I'm going to give you a list of 4 things, coffee filters?
Yes, you can put coffee filters into if you're putting out a craft bag, you can do that. And sometimes I even have to pull that stuff just to make sure that there's so much that goes into it. But yes, you can.
Okay. What about tea bags?
Tea bags are okay.
You don't have to take the little staple out?
No, no. Well, I see what you see, the top thing. No, I don't think you have to take that out. And spent tea bags are okay, just like coffee grounds are.
Okay. How about bones and avocado pits?
Bones, yes, are okay. And what was the second question? Avocado pits? Boy, that one, in all my time in doing this, I've never been asked specifically about an avocado pit. I'm inclined to say yes, but I wouldn't stake my next paycheck on that. I'm pretty certain that it is, but I should go ahead and say this right now. If I can't answer a question, I'd rather just say I don't know than to try and fudge an answer. There's too many people here that could probably see through that if I tried to. And that's one I'm not sure of. But anything like that, I'm happy to find out and get back to anybody that would like an answer.
Okay, and finally, can they use compostable liners?
Yeah, but now this is a good question. So we the ugly truth is that a lot of the people that we send our organic material to do not want the compostable bags or cutlery, because it just breaks down at such a slower rate than the rest of the rest of the material, the fruits, the vegetables, whatnot that go into the stream. So we do try and get people to avoid putting anything that's not food into that, and that would be a bag or cutlery. They're always making advancements in that stuff, but we have to sort of go by what our the facilities that we take this stuff to want us to do with that. And I can tell you firsthand, we for a couple of years we were running an aerobic digester, and at least in our case, those are very sensitive to even things like stickers. So if you had a banana or a tomato with a sticker on it, that would literally upset the process, sometimes the digestion process. So we do have to be careful with that stuff.
Okay. Peggy wants to know a few more very specific things. We're getting very granular, but that's it all
Sure.
is of interest. What about packing tape that's on cardboard shipping boxes like Amazon? Can we recycle the tape?
No, you cannot. It's always best if you can rip that off. You do sometimes see the tape that's more of that paper-based tape.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's packing tape, then we do want people to take that off. We don't expect perfection, but if we can get people to help out with this stuff, it just helps the process.
What about cellophane panels inside envelopes?
No, no, I don't know. I don't know. That's one that I'm going to do a deeper dive into. Are you talking about the envelopes with the little window on them for addresses?
I think that's what they mean.
Yeah, no, you could put that in. You could put that in your recycling.
Okay, cool. What about paper that is blended with wax or plastic or metallic?
No.
Okay. What about adhesive glue to hold enclosures in mass mailings? What? I don't quite understand that one. I'm sorry. How about clean tinfoil?
Yes, you can. We'll take that.
Okay. And how should glass containers be recycled? Peggy says she's concerned about the glass breakage. And also normally she would put light bulbs in a paper bag, for example, so that no one gets cut. And is that a good policy?
Well, I appreciate that she does that. As far as the what was the first before the light bulb? What was the question that was?
How should glass containers be?
Glass. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because she's concerned about breakage too.
Yeah. So I wouldn't. I would handle again using a ragu or a spaghetti sauce jar, a Prego jar. I would, like you would usually, just be sort of gingerly with the way you handle it once it's emptied. Just so you don't break it in your own hand or on your own kitchen floor. But what we want people to do is once they've rinsed that out, put the lids on. We want the lids with the glass jar. We don't want them separated. In our process, we will break those glasses. We have a process that includes that all that glass will be sorted out, and then it will be broken very deliberately and put into a big 10-yard roll-off box where it will go on to for further processing at our glass recycler. So yes, we want to keep it in one piece. If it breaks, as long as it's not like a kitchenware glass or something, you could still put it in there. But again, that we don't find that happens very often. Those are pretty durable, those jars.
Okay. She also wants to know, is plastic being recycled anymore? She hasn't seen any. She's seen videos saying China isn't taking anything, which you already discussed, and that plastic recycling isn't really happening anymore. Is that true?
It's not true. Excuse me. I can only speak for my company. We recycle it. There's no doubt there's sort of a pre-COVID and post-COVID approach to recycling. We have a lot more of it. We don't recycle as much of it. We're sitting on large backlogs of it because before COVID hit, the market was way down. But now after COVID hit, you have a situation where we've had to slow our recycling lines down. I said earlier in my presentation that we were processing about 20 tons an hour, at some of our facilities, and that's a lot slower now, just because everyone's staying at home, so you're producing a lot more recyclables and garbage from one's home, and on top of that, you have I used to be able to have a line worker stand 3 or 4 feet apart to sort things out. Now I have to have these guys 5, 6 feet apart, and I'm glad. I mean, it's for their own health. I'm not acting like that. I don't mean that to come across as it's putting us out. It's their health that's important, but that slows the process down, and it sort of log jams things. But yeah, we still recycle it.
Okay. Hall wants to know, is Illinois passing any legislation to make recycling more feasible and producers more responsible?
I haven't heard anything in terms of that sort of accountability, not to haulers at least. I guess I wonder, I'm not sure what the specifics of that are. I think as a company, we can always do a better job. That's just, I think that way about everything in my life. I think you can always do a better job. But I think we do. I think we do a pretty admirable job, all things considered. We're not perfect, but I think we message well. I think we work very well with our municipalities. You don't come into a community like Glencoe and try and do things and cut corners. You will be held accountable pretty quickly. So. But I haven't heard anything specific, and no specific legislation to that extent.
Okay. Prokofiev family wants to know, can I post the video on the library website? I think I can attach it to the video that we produce of this recorded event, so I'll try to do that. Also, you know what? I can email the link for the video that you wanted to show to everybody who received the link tonight. So,
yeah, the more people that see it, the better, because I think it gives a frame of reference. I mean, this is all sort of theoretical in the ether until you actually see these machines at work. I'm just a guy talking about it, and I know a lot of people have sort of a jaundiced perspective when it comes to recycling. I understand that. So when you see a video like this, I think it helps give a visual.
Okay. Catherine wants to know, does LRS provide the composting services in Glencoe, or is that somebody else?
We do. We have what's called a ride-along program. Ride-along program is when we allow and actually encourage residents to mix organics in their yard waste. So if you had a craft bag full of grass clippings and you had some fruits, vegetables, breads, what have you, coffee grinds, you could put it into that brown craft bag, and we would take that would get sorted out and sent to the appropriate organics facility.
Okay, great. Barbara wants you to talk a little bit about composting, if you could.
Sure.
Do you want to say that?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a little bit slow in Chicagoland. And I think there are probably several factors to that. We're going in the right direction. Haulers are doing a better job of working with municipalities to come up with programs, but the reality is that people just don't take advantage of it. They don't know about it. So we feel like, we need to do a better job of getting that message out. But it just hasn't gotten a lot of traction. We work with several organics companies that we take our material to and try and make sure we're doing the best job we can as far as giving them the product that works best for them. We were the first company in the country back in, I would say 2016, we purchased, what I mentioned this earlier, an aerobic digester, which took in about 15 tons of organic material a night and produced about 5 to 6 tons of a soil amendment overnight, which is sort of like almost looks like coffee grounds, and you could use that. It's almost like Milorganite. You could use it to sort of fortify a lawn. That was good, but the problem is the machinery broke down quite a bit. A South Korean product, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but you just didn't have a lot of people over here that with the wherewithal to sort of fix that when it broke down, that machinery when it broke down. So we have halted the use of that for the time being. But we are, we have ownership at my company that's always looking for a better way to do it. Organic waste is not going anywhere. So we all need to do a better job of sort of building a better mousetrap in terms of finding a solution to it. But again, as it stands right now, most of our communities have ride-along programs where you can put that in to a craft bag, or you can even put it into a plastic container if you have it, and we will take that as an organic material.
Okay, I'm going to take 2 more questions from chat, and then I'm going to switch over to the Q&A because questions are also coming through there, and we have 19 of them. So
Okay.
People really want to know, which is great. Mark wants to know, which plastics can you recycle? Just number 1 and number 2 plastics, or more than that?
No, you can take ones. Well, I'm sorry. We will take 1 through 5s and 7s. What we can't take 6. 6s would be like solo cups or plastic cutlery. The polyethylene and that it takes too long to break down. So if you look on no matter where you are, if you see the chasing arrows on it and it has number 1 or 3 or 5 or 7, good to go. If it's a 6, we don't want that in the recycling stream.
Okay, and Steve asks, how much of the clean plastic we put in our bins is actually recycled versus being put into landfills, and who's taking the recycled plastics from you?
Well, if it's clean recyclable, we have a residual rate of about, I would say, about north of 85% of what we take in gets recycled. There's always about 15%, maybe 10 to 15% that's contaminated or it's contraband in some way that doesn't make the cut that we can't recycle. The stuff that we can recycle, we do recycle. We send that to companies where they might turn it into a backpack. They might turn it into a rug, different sort of textiles. So yeah, I mean, when we have that stuff, we definitely do recycle it. Could I look in the eye and tell you that every single plastic bottle that comes from our facility is recycled? No, because again, there might be other factors to it where we can't recycle that. So, but we have a very, very high rate of recycling at my company.
Yeah.
And we actually, I mean, we do tours of our facilities all the time. We want people to come and see it firsthand, just so they can get a better visual and understand that process better.
Great. Okay. Linda asks, from today's mail, she's been trialing a meal kit company that has a great page on how to recycle most of the components of their packaging. They had one surprising suggestion, though. They say, our fiber insulating liner is made from biodegradable and compostable natural fiber, primarily cotton. To discard, place the natural fiber insulation in your paper recycling bin. And she says, is this correct? It looks like the inside of a blanket and includes some very thin, transparent fibers that look like they must be nylon or polyester. Should we really put this in paper recycling, or should we save it for a textile recycling program?
I would say the latter more than the former. Again, when it comes to single stream recycling, we have to remember that is sort of household conventional recyclable items. If we try and get too tricky with it, it's probably going to hurt the process. It sounds very glib for me to say this. I don't mean it to come off the wrong way, but again, going back to the saying, when in doubt, throw it out. Companies are trying to do the right thing by making their products recyclable, but it's just not always the case, even if they say it is. At least not in terms of as the definition of single stream recycling goes.
Okay.
So I would say, I'm being garrulous, I would say no to that.
Okay, here's one that I've always wondered too. Thank you for asking it, anonymous attendee. Does the glass peanut butter jar need to be free of all peanut butter before it can be recycled?
Yes and no. We don't have, and I want to be careful. I hope I'm not sounding sarcastic, but we're not. We try and be rigid about that, but we also understand that, again, it goes back to, I don't expect somebody to spend 10 minutes and waste 3 gallons of water to get every speck of peanut butter off a glass jar or a plastic jar for that matter. They're not coming, we're not taking jeweler's loops to them and saying, well, there's a little, we just ask that people put an honest effort into getting as clean as possible. If there's some residual in there, we're going to know it. You know, again, if there's a couple little streaks or something, that's okay. My wife's really good about it. She'll take one of those plastic things and, you know, get it all out. But so I guess my answer would be, does every single scintilla of peanut butter have to be up? No, it doesn't. But we want it to be as clean as possible.
Fair enough. Thank you. If you're not making money on the recycled materials, what are you doing with it after it's sorted?
Well, we still send it to it's a downturn and we're just not making money. I mean, that doesn't mean we're folding. We're a very solvent company. We just don't make money on it. It's financially, it's not advantageous for us to do it, but it's a circular, it's a circular, pardon me, market. It will come back and that's what we're banking on. We haven't stopped investing any money in those facilities. The one that I referenced as I was sort of speeding through my presentation there, we built a few years ago. It's an $8.5 million facility. In the last year or so, we've dumped well over $1 million to get not to maintain that, but to increase the proficiency there. So yeah, I mean, we're not making money on recyclables, but that doesn't mean that our mission has changed. It's not like we're getting, well, we got to throw it away now. You know, we just don't get paid for it. We're still a solvent company, but we hope it turns around soon. So it's better for our bottom line. You have to weather these markets, and it's such a fluid business, garbage and recyclables. I'm just editorializing here, but it's given to so many waves. You know, the commodities that we deal with, from labor to disposal, the cost of yellow iron, diesel, all sorts of things. You're going to be in up periods and you're going to be in down periods. Somewhere in a down period.
Back to granular. The plastic clamshell containers that blueberries come in, are they recyclable?
If they are 1 through 5 or 7, yes, they are.
Right. Okay.
Pardon me.
Deborah wants to know, what's the impact on recycling of grocery store bans on reusable bags? Have you seen any?
I haven't seen any data on that. So I'm not comfortable speaking to it. I would imagine it's moving the needle quite a bit. But I couldn't give you any sort of numbers on that.
Okay. What about shredded paper? What should we do with that?
Well, we can't capture it. I mean, it's recyclable. It's paper. The problem with shredded paper is again, it comes down to a matter of catching that. By the time that gets on our lines, and through the sort of the initial sorting process, that stuff just blows all over and just really creates a mess. If one of these things I probably wouldn't put on paper, but if somebody has a bunch of it and they want to, put it in a larger paper bag and sort of fold it down, you could do that, and hopefully that will make it through. And if it does, then we'll recycle. But it's just very hard to capture, which is that's the biggest problem.
Let's see. Mark wants to know, what percentage of recycled waste ends up in landfill? A recent NPR podcast, Planet Money, implied percentage is about 10% due to expensive sorting costs and given the low price of oil.
The oil is an interesting thing in the way it relates to recycling. Again, with our process, when I talk about that residual rate, by the time we're done sorting a run of recyclables, probably north of 85% is going to be recycled. It's going to get baled and sent down to our partners that recycle this. So the stuff that doesn't make the cut is going to get landfilled. It could be 10 to 15%. It's just for contamination reasons, or it's just it's the type of plastic or material that we just can't recycle. So we run it ragged. There's a big pile of that gets sort of spit out that doesn't make the cut after this really sort of like a Rube Goldberg process of recycling with automation and line workers. And then you have this pile of stuff, and we have facility managers that will walk by that pile of stuff that didn't make the cut. And if they see, well, there's still some clean paper in there, let's run it through again. Then we'll run it through again. So we try and keep that rate as strong as possible. But of course, obviously, not everything that gets in the recycle stream is going to get recycled. I should say.
this is always a good question. What should we do with plastic grocery bags?
I would suggest, unless you have a dog or a baby or something, I would just collect. I mean, in my home, I can tell you what we do is we collect them, and then we'll just bring them back to the grocer. You know, the Jewel is they're good enough to they have those little not kiosks, but little receptacles there that you can put them in, and they'll take those.
Or like,
Otherwise, unfortunately, it becomes garbage.
right. And here in Glencoe, the Grand has one of those Trex containers
Yeah.
outside, and Mariano's also has one, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Deborah wants to know, what about plastic bottle caps and bottle caps from glass bottles?
Great question. We want to put them back on the bottles, whether that's a bottle of water, a bottle of pop, a bottle of jar of peanut butter. Keep those lids on. It helps us. It helps us collect it. So, like using a plastic pop bottle, if for two reasons. First of all, that cap is recyclable. It helps us capture the bottle instead of it getting smashed and it's tougher to collect. So we want that stuff on there. It will get recycled. So please keep caps and lids on.
Okay. Sandy says, I heard you don't recycle to-go coffee cups that have plastic coating on the inside. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay.
That's one of those. That's one where we've experimented with it too. We service a lot of Starbucks, so that's one though that I need to get a more of an update in terms of an answer on. So you know, before I so soundly say that's true, I need to actually probably look into that a little bit more.
Okay. Isla wants to know, what about the fact that although many people follow the plastic recycling guidelines based on the information provided in the triangle, actually none of that plastic is being recycled. The plastic industry finds it easier and much cheaper to produce new plastic products because of the exorbitant costs of actually recycling.
Well, it has less to do with the quote unquote exorbitant costs of recycling. One of the things that has played a role in recycling is the fact that, you know, oil for a while was very, very cheap, the cost of oil, a barrel of oil. And a lot of people, given the choice of using virgin oil instead of using recycled oil, did tend to use the virgin oil. But I can only speak on my behalf. You know, we recycle this stuff. We're very transparent about it. If you can listen to, you can always find a podcast or a radio show or something that is going to tell you that, you know, everyone's just landfilling it, and you know, I can't speak to what other haulers are doing on that stuff. I can only tell you that, you know, that's our approach to it.
Okay, a couple more composting questions. Does LRS pick up compost bags curbside or only at the village site?
I'm sorry, could you say one more time, Grace?
Does LRS pick up compost bags curbside or only at the village site?
Curbside. If it's out, yeah, we'll get it. It'll be on the yard. It's concurrent with the yard waste schedule. So we'll put that in the yard waste truck, and that will get taken to one of our facilities, sorted out, and then it will go down to one of the organics facilities that we use.
Okay. And Stacy wants to know, can we get or order a garbage can just for compostable organic matter rather than using paper compostable bags?
You can. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it. But yes, you can. You can be put on a subscription program where you would be charged a flat rate, and every week a truck would come by your house and pick up whatever you put out. Some people do that. It's more common for people to put it in a brown bag. But you know, we do give that up.
Bill, you kind of froze there for a second.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, it sounds like you're back. Can you?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you lost me. Yeah, we can provide a plastic cart. I don't always recommend it. They tend to get a little smelly, and you know, you want to do what you can do not to attract you know, critters, that sort of thing. But we can do that. That would be part of a subscription program, and we would deliver a cart to the resident for that.
Okay, so if they want that, they can just contact LRS.
They just call it, right. There's a charge for it, but yes, we do have that availability.
Okay. Nello says, can staples be left on paper?
Yes, I mean, that's one of those things where I want to make sure we're not being too precious about it. Yeah, a staple will be okay on a piece of paper. Yeah, we have to be able to make this somewhat friendly to use for people. And if we start telling people they have to go through stacks of office paper and take out every staple, it's gonna. I wouldn't blame somebody for saying, "Oh, the heck with us," But yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. What about Scotch tape dispensers? Can they be recycled?
That is a rigid plastic, I believe. And if I'm right on that, then the answer would be no to that. That's a good question. I will have to ask on that one. I'll have to check with my guys at my facilities.
Okay.
Good question.
Linda wants to know, I've seen neighbors put their recycling into a garbage bag and put that into their recycle bin. What happens to that? Will you open the bag and recycle it, or does the whole thing just get trashed?
So she witnessed a neighbor putting recyclables into a garbage bag.
And then putting that into their recycling bin. She wants to know what happens to that.
Oh, I see. So she's using,
yeah.
We don't want, I'm glad that came up. But we don't want plastic bags at all. That again, it's no different than, a plastic bag that you would get at a grocery store. It's not recyclable and it hurts the process. Those bags, those tend to gum up the machinery. We'll have to shut down the machinery at least once a day for long periods and just, cut that stuff out of ballistic sorters and stuff. So aside from the fact that it's not a recyclable product, it also, it hurts the process. And we can't have our drivers breaking bags. We just don't know what's in there. We don't want to put them in harm's way. So yes, no plastic bags, please.
Okay. Sherry says, what happens to some bundles of so-called clean recyclables, perhaps from other companies, not LRS? She said there was a 2020 or Dateline show that discussed that these bundles are often shipped to countries like Thailand for a fee, and that those countries then dump it into the ocean. Do you know anything about that?
I mean, I can't. I wouldn't say with authority. I don't. But I think there's probably some truth to that. There are probably some companies that operate at a different ethical level as far as that stuff goes. I think fortunately the companies around here all tend to do a pretty good job and they're pretty cognizant about doing the right thing. But yeah, I mean, that was part of what happened with China is world markets were just sending so much contaminated bales into that country that even a country like China, I don't mean that pejoratively, but even though, hey, you can't, are you kidding me? This is all garbage. So there's probably something to that. I couldn't get any more specific than that.
Okay. We have so many questions. You need to tell me if you need to draw this to an end.
No, I like doing it. I wish I could get better answers on certain things, but I think this group is too sharp for me to try and get anything over. I'm happy to keep answering. Unless one of my kids comes down and starts asking for math homework help or something, I'm good to go for at least a little while longer.
Well, let's do about 10 more minutes then, and then.
Okay.
Somebody wants to know, are you looking into EV waste trucks? I saw that Boston's experimenting with one. And maybe you could say what EV is.
Probably electronic is what this word. Let's say I have a Cheshire grin on my face right now, and I can't go beyond that. So I think I don't want to be too political here. We have ownership that's I'm very proud of the ownership of my company because they are forward thinking and those are the sort of things that they discuss. So I'll leave it at that before I get myself into trouble and disclose something I shouldn't. But I think it's great. I mean, it's that's the way things are going. And trucks aren't cheap. Our trucks are probably, you know, $275,000, $300,000 a piece, and it takes a long time to get them, and a lot to keep them up, and a lot to staff them. So if you can do something like, you know, if you can start implementing that sort of thing, I think that works in everybody's favor in terms of, you know, practicalities and doing what's right for the environment. How's that for a spin?
That's good. That's very
Okay.
good. You should come over to PR. Stacy wants to know about Tetra Paks. Good
Yes.
question.
Yeah, we will take them. We can take those. We can take, again, it goes back to that flex packaging we talked about earlier. We don't want that at this point. Hopefully we find a way to sort of do that better, but we will take aseptic packaging. We'll take milk cartons and that sort of thing. We do take that as recyclable.
That might be the next question, actually. Can you take mixed material packaging like juice boxes or gabled milk cartons, the kind with the plastic?
Yes.
Spot?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. If we have no yard waste, the landscaper takes it, would we just place compostable material in a paper bag and leave it at the curb? Not sure what that question means. Let's move to the next one. Is there a website or other source of information where people can find out what is and isn't recyclable?
Well, you know, I always encourage people to consult our website. I think the village does a pretty good job with that too. If you know, beyond those two things, you can go to the local you know, SWANC websites, which is the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County, would be a good resource. You know, further up north, you have SWALCO, Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, is a very good resource for this sort of thing. So that would be 4 places that I would start. If people are a little bit more, as you say, Grace, sort of granular about that, you know, they can call us, and I'll try and answer those questions as best I can. And again, if I can't, it really comes to, for me, it just comes down to me reaching out to the GMs of our recycling facilities, because they know better than anybody what is and what isn't recyclable. So, but I would start with those 4 and go from there.
This may not be a question that you can answer, but Helen wants to know, why is compost and garden waste not a standard collection like recycling and landfill? And, you know, one of the attendees is, I hate to put her on the spot, but is Megan Olson, who's from the village and helped organize this event. And if I make her a co-host, she may be able to answer the question. I have to find her first. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, there she is. Okay. All right, Megan. Sorry, this is kind of squirrely. It's hard to see.
Hi, Grace. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
you can talk. Yes. Hey, Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Grace?
I don't know that I can get your audio working, but we can hear you.
Can you repeat the question, Grace?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Helen wants to know, why is compost and garden waste not a standard collection like recycling and landfill are?
That is a good question. We can look more into it. Bill, do you have?
Yeah, I can help you out with that.
Thank you.
The reason is it really comes down to participation. You know, you don't have a whole lot of people that are participating in these programs. And you know, in Glencoe, a lot of people have landscape services. They don't really have the need for craft bags for grass clippings the way that other communities were. So really, it has a lot to do with participation. Certain areas have started sort of pilot programs, year-round pilot programs. There's one community up north that started it, where everybody has the service, but the carts that we provide them oftentimes just essentially turn into default garbage. garbage carts. And so again, it comes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, where it's been a little slow going to get traction on it. The sense of urgency in Chicago is not what it was on the coasts. You have we're fairly flush here with landfills, where that's not the case on the coast. You have far fewer in terms of ratio landfills. So there's sort of, I guess the sense of urgency is a little bit greater here, but it's getting better here. It's just been a little bit slower to get people to sort of buy into that process.
Great, thank you. I think we'll switch back to chat now, because there's a lot more going in. Here's a question I've always wondered about. When I have more cardboard than will fit in the bin, is it okay to set it next to the bin? That's from Mark.
Yes, we will take it.
Great,
Absolutely.
okay. Linda wants to know, can you talk a little bit about what happens when there is contamination in the stream? If a blob of cheese ends up in the recycling bin or a whole slice of pizza, what happens? That might have been in the video.
Yeah. So the way our process works is it starts off, you have these tipping floors that the trucks will back into, and they'll dump, and I'll try and give you the Reader's Digest version here, but you have these tipping floors where the trucks will empty their recycling loads onto. And then you have, a 3-yard bucket that lifts the stuff and pushes it, and then onto a scrapping drum, which flattens it. And then it goes up a conveyor belt to line workers. And they'll probably see that before anybody else does. And it'll get weeded out. If it's a rigid plastic, if it's a very obvious greasy or half pizza filled box, that sort of thing. So that stuff will get sorted out. It's an incredibly it's just a very impressive mix of automation and sort of human sensibilities, the whole process when it comes to sorting. And so it's going to get caught. There will not be a greasy pizza box that makes it through our facilities. We spent too much time. We have people coming in here or going into those facilities and just sort of eyeing up everything every hour of the day to make sure everything's running as perfectly as possible. And when that is the case, it's a very impressive process. Stuff just doesn't get through. We're not perfect. I'm not suggesting we're a perfect company. Again, there is stuff that gets spit out along the way, but something like a pizza box, a greasy pizza box, if somebody thought, well, this is recyclable, it would get weeded out before it ever got to a certain part of the process.
Okay, I'm gonna like 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. Are paper-bound or hardback books recyclable?
No. I mean, if you, it's funny, my father-in-law asked this question too, just the other day. I mean, if you rip the pages out, yeah, absolutely, it can be recycled. The problem is, again, with the binding on the book, that's where, that's the stuff that doesn't get recycled.
So if you rip the covers off, is that good enough?
No, because we don't want the glued part, the binding. If you rip it out from there, if you take like an X-Acto knife and just sort of scoring it and tearing it out, then it's okay. But other than that, we don't want hardcover books. Paperback books, yeah, it's okay, but not the hardcover books where there's glue and resin in the material.
Okay, so paperback books, yes, recyclable. Hardcovers, no.
Mhm.
All right, and last question. This is from Irene. Where are you sending the recyclables? Is China accepting them? If not, where are the bales sent?
We don't send anything to China. All our markets are all domestic. So again, it depends on what that commodity is. If it's paper, if it's mixed paper, which is such a huge chunk of recyclables that come in, we might send it to a pulping facility, and there's several in Wisconsin. Again, if it's plastic, could be, I think we have some facilities down south. I want to say Georgia, that we will send that to. We have very good relationships though with different companies that will send that to get those bales off.
So all the recycling happens here in the United States.
Yeah, it's all domestic. Yeah.
What a change for the industry in the last few years.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears, that's for sure. Did anybody have any questions about COVID or anything? I feel like usually I do these. I just, if there's any questions about that, there's a lot of messaging with that. So I don't know if anyone,
I haven't seen any yet.
okay.
I mean, I tell you, these questions just go on and on and on, which is awesome.
Okay.
But oh, one last one. What about clean
Yeah.
white styrofoam?
No, styrofoam, no. We can't take that, unfortunately. There are some communities, Western Springs is one of our partners, our municipal partners, and they have a group out there that I think works with DART maybe, or I can't remember the name of the company, that they've put a program together. So they'll have sort of drives maybe every few months or so, and they'll they'll accept that stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kenny. You've answered, I think, a record number of questions tonight. I'm going to send around
Happy to.
video in just a couple minutes to your email boxes, everyone who participated. So please watch for that and view it when you can. Thank you to everyone who helped organize this great program, and especially to you, Mr. Kenny. You've been very helpful. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, and I'm sorry if I didn't. I can see some of the questions coming up saying, "Wait a minute, what about this?" And I hope I was able to at least give some decent answers away. I don't know if I did a great job on all of it, but I appreciate being part of this, and if I can help out in any other way, I'm always happy to do it again.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good night,
My
everyone.
pleasure. Good night. Thank you.